Today we're going to talk about fatty liver and the powerful connection this has with diabetes. The link between fatty liver and diabetes is so strong that it is rare that you'll find one without the other. Yeah, it can happen, but it doesn't happen often. And usually when you have fatty liver without diabetes, it's only a matter of time before diabetes comes trailing along. To have a liver that is filled with fat is called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. But I don't really see that as a disease. I see it as the natural consequence of a diet filled with sugars and carbs. Imagine if I went on a diet of donuts and jelly sandwiches, eating several donuts and several jelly sandwiches at every meal for an entire year. Over that year, I double my weight, and now instead of weighing 165, I weigh 330. A friend I haven't seen during the last year sees me, and in shock he says, "What happened to you, Dennis? Your face is so big, it's enormous." And I tell him, "Yeah, it is sad, but my doctor says I have fatty face disease. That's why my face is so big." And then he says, "But your neck is huge as well. How did you get such an enormous neck?" And I tell him, "Well, strangely, around the same time I got fatty face disease, I also contracted fatty neck disease." Of course, that's pretty silly. The problem is not fatty face or fatty neck disease. The problem was I ate a monstrous high-sugar, high-carb diet and gained a huge amount of weight. And in like manner, a fatty liver does not just come on people out of the blue. It's not something you can catch from somebody else. It's not contagious. And there's no mystery as to why this affliction is increasing like crazy in the last generation. Right now, it's estimated that about 10% of children have it, and around 25% of American adults are afflicted with fatty liver, which is a whole lot of people. In the UK, hospitalizations from fatty liver-related issues increased almost 10 times from 1998 to 2010. When I was younger, nobody was talking about fatty liver. Today, you hear the term constantly. And one thing is for sure, fatty liver is a major bad guy in the realm of health. It goes hand in hand with diabetes, and it can progress to the point where your liver will fail entirely, and you'll need a liver transplant if you can get one. Fatty liver is so linked to diabetes that it's fair to say that if a type 2 diabetic can ever find a way to fix their fatty liver, they will very likely fix their diabetes and bring their A1C down below diabetic levels. Now, some of our vegan friends hear about fat accumulating in our liver and pancreas, and they pounce on that like a cat on a mouse. "Aha," they say, "this just shows that you get these problems from eating fat. You get fat on your liver and other organs because you eat fat, especially saturated fat from animals. You eat all that fat and it heads straight for your liver and jams and crams your liver with all that animal fat. That's the cause of fatty liver." They'll tell you, you eat fat, you get fat on the outside and on the inside. Well, that may sound logical, but research, evidence, and a little common sense reveal that it is absurd. It does not take eating fat to get fat. There are all kinds of overweight vegetarians who never touch saturated fat. All it takes to become overweight is to eat too much food, period. Let me remind you that cows eat a low-fat diet. You might say that cows are the quintessential vegans. They never eat animal products. They feed on low-fat, low-calorie grass all day long, every day. And yet they become enormous, and their bodies are filled with saturated fat. How in the world do they get so fat on such a high-carb, low-fat diet? The answer is they eat a lot all day long, in many cases more than they need to, and so it is with people. In fact, it's worse than that. Studies show that the biggest contributors to liver fat are carbohydrates and sugars. These foods provoke huge amounts of insulin, which goes to work storing all the excess calories as fat on your belly, on your bottom, and worst of all, on and in your liver and pancreas. In fact, when you overeat carbs and sugars, your liver will typically take in fat quicker and more effectively than the rolls of fat that accumulate on the outside of your body. Dr. Jason Fung talks about fatty liver in his book, The Diabetes Code, and I wanted to share a couple of his quotes, and then, of course, I'll add some more thoughts of my own. First, the cause of fatty liver. Dr. Fung writes, too much sugar and insulin over too long a period of time leads to fatty liver. Carbs and sugar lead to huge surges of insulin, and one of insulin's jobs is to store fat in and on your body. So the process is this: eat carbs, provoke large amounts of insulin, increase in fat, both on the outside of your body and on the inside of your body, especially on the organs. Usually the storage works about equally. You get more and more overweight on the outside, and you get more and more fat stored on your liver and pancreas on the inside where no one can see it. But in some cases, it works a little differently. For some individuals, most of the fat will go to the organs, and the result is they still look pretty good. They don't appear to be overweight, at least not by much, and yet their organs and their liver are stuffed with fat. They become diabetic and they ask, how can I be diabetic? I'm not overweight, at least not by much. But they may be slim or normal on the outside, and yet they are fat on the inside, on their organs, which is a terrible scenario. Dr. Jason Fung sees fatty liver as a direct result of too much insulin resulting from the ingestion of too many carbs and too much sugar. He lists the process this way. Number 1, hyperinsulinemia causes fatty liver. 2, fatty liver causes insulin resistance. 3, insulin resistance leads to compensatory hyperinsulinemia. And 4, repeat the cycle. In other words, too many carbs and sugars, too much insulin, ever worsening insulin resistance, and on it goes, resulting eventually in sky-high blood sugar, in other words, severe diabetes with all its complications and miseries. Fung writes, as the liver slowly accumulates fat, insulin resistance escalates in lockstep. In type 2 diabetic patients, a close correlation exists between the amount of liver fat and the insulin dose required. It is interesting that it is very, very easy to give yourself fatty liver. That's right, you can give yourself fatty liver if you choose to, which you shouldn't. But that's more evidence still that this is not really a disease, it's simply a condition. They've done studies and fed participants high-carb and high-sugar diets, and their liver fat increased 20% in a matter of a month or two. But there is good news in this, because if you can increase your fatty liver that quickly and efficiently, maybe we can also decrease our fatty liver quickly and efficiently as well. And it turns out this is normally true. If eating too much, and especially too much carbohydrates and sugar in our diet, is the primary cause of fatty liver, then it stands to reason that by severely limiting the carbs and sugar in our diet, we can significantly reduce the fat on our organs. And here's some more good news. Often, I think we can say usually, the fat from your liver will disappear far more quickly than the fat around your stomach. So if you weigh 300 pounds and you know it's going to take a good year or more to get down to a normal weight, it may not take you nearly that long to get your liver to a normal state. Your liver will respond to a new diet much faster than the love handles around your midsection. The two major steps to reducing your fatty liver and reversing your diabetes are, as I preach constantly, moving to a very low-carbohydrate diet and employing time-restricted eating, which means eating 2 meals over an 8 or preferably a 6-hour period every day with no snacking in between those 2 meals. Using your glucose meter to test foods and meals to see which ones spike your glucose and then eliminating those glucose spikers, well, that's going to help a great deal. The milder your post-meal glucose rises are, the less insulin will be released, and the less insulin surging through your bloodstream, the quicker your liver will release all that fat. There are a couple of other things to keep in mind. Fructose is especially tough on your liver because it can only be processed by the liver, and fructose is a major component of fruit. What this means is that even in a small apple or a small orange or half a banana, although it may not spike your glucose too high, the very fact that it is sending its fructose straight to your liver, which is already full of fat, is not a good thing. And of course, all the high fructose corn syrup you get in sodas is terrible as well. Once you do get your liver detoxed and free from fat, you can probably get by with small portions of fruit occasionally. But in those early stages when you're battling sky-high diabetes and fatty liver, you'd probably be better off leaving fruit alone entirely, apart from a few berries. Another issue connected to the liver is alcohol. Alcohol does not tend to raise blood sugar unless it has a lot of carbs or sugar that come with it. So a shot of vodka or some dry wine may not raise your blood sugar at all. But that alcohol can cause additional fat in the liver, can also cause inflammation and the scarring of the liver. For someone dealing with fatty liver and diabetes, even occasional drinks are not really very smart. If you don't know whether you have fatty liver or not, there are scans you can get at the labs. You can ask your doctor about that, which can reveal the exact condition of your liver. But it is fair to say that if you're significantly obese, chances are that you have it. And even if your arms and legs are slim, but you've got a big belly, chances are you have it. Fatty liver, keep in mind, is not the diabetic's friend, and that is something you want to get rid of as quickly as possible. Fatty liver can nearly always be significantly reversed, although there is a point where you cross the point of no return with your liver itself, and your liver may be irretrievably lost if you let it go way too far. Avoid eating high-carb meals, and by all means avoid the practice of the cows, which is to graze all day long. Be kind to your liver, and your liver will be kind to you. If you've recently been diagnosed with diabetes and you've just discovered this channel, let me recommend that you go to our Uploads page, which will give you access to every diabetic video we've posted since we began. As you work your way through all our videos, I believe you'll find the help you need. A link to our Uploads page is in the description.